Welcome back to another episode of When We're Not Hustling the After Party. We're talking about Body by Blunts today, and it is episode 17. And I have my after party friends and co-hosts. I will let you two introduce yourselves.
Hi, I'm Emily Foster. I'm the producer of When We're Not Hustling. Welcome to the after party. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave us a comment.
I love that. That's your job.
And I am Melissa Milk, local kink BDSM practitioner educator.
Yeah, that sounds great. And you were a guest, and you're going to be a guest again. I'm going to do a little bit of housekeeping here. I was going to tell everybody that we were putting these only on YouTube as a video, but we have decided that we're going to let the listeners of the podcast listen to the audio part of it too. So I am slowly and in no particular order because, that's how I roll. Putting them up as I'm getting them ready. So there are probably 4 or 5 on the podcast as bonus episodes, anywhere you get your podcast, and the rest of them are up on YouTube. And these ones will be as well. But if you're listening to this on the podcast and you want to see our smiley faces, head over to YouTube, and that's youtube.com/sapiotextual. So Body by Blunts, I did not know that Body was a singer. So that was really fun because I've only interviewed them in the capacity of being on the board of directors for Swap USA. And then also I've had them on disability panels. So it was neat to hear what they do when they're not working as an advocate.
It was really, really cool to hear about how many other, you could think of them sort of as sex work, especially since they're like, I'm a stripper, but like how many other outlets they have and how creative.
Mm-hmm. Well, it was also interesting. It's also interesting to hear that so much of those creative outlets are funded by sex work. Because when I thought they made me laugh so much when I was like, well, how do you fund that? Because our people here are having a hard time. And she's like, they're like, have they tried being a hooker?
That was my favorite line.
Very good line.
Yeah. I want to pull that into a YouTube short. And it's just not one piece of audio. Well, if they tried being a hooker,
because that solves some problems. But actually, that's really interesting because I think that one of the things that's come up like kind of over and over again in this show is how sex work money gets redistributed throughout the community.
Yeah, it is really interesting because having spoken to you more about like the sex work avenues that I have done so far and the arenas that I'm trying to move into, taking my profile clients, I've used a lot of my own money in the past to bring together events at venues for my community at really accessible rates. And I'm like, I'm really looking forward to maybe using other people's money.
Yeah. But it's interesting to think of like who clients are too, because a lot of it is, they're obviously clients, but they're also like funding art projects and all kinds of things. Like when we had Chloe Nova on, she was talking about how clients are paying for the art projects of these like portraits of sex workers. And so that's also really interesting.
Yeah, I'm deeply appreciative of how much work it takes to put on a show. Weekly is insane.
Yeah.
And make sure
thinking the same thing
gets paid.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, that's a lot. Especially for somebody who has like illnesses and disabilities, who is like, I'm still going to put this on and we're going to figure out how to do this.
Yeah. Takes a tremendous amount of work and dedication. And I am a graphic designer, so I'm going to reach out to them and be like,
oh, that's great. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
I am also a graphic designer, but one with disabilities and a lot going on. And I was still like, should I reach though. Like, maybe I could fit in an hour here and there. I'm so glad to hear. Yes, please do.
Yeah. Because they do really incredible work down in Texas where I think that's really cool. Yeah. I mean, I also thought it was really interesting to hear them talk about going through like not elective surgery, but it is in some ways elective because some people choose not to do that when they find out that they have those genes.
Yeah. It's preventative surgery. It's choosing,
that's a better way to say it.
amount of pain and suffering in advance to prevent that in the future. And like, I get that.
Yeah.
I get that.
Yeah. PJ talks about that because about the fact that if they were going to, if hindsight was 2020, they would have been more aggressive the first time around when they had, because the first time they got cancer, they had a testicle removed and the doctor said, then we could do a short round of chemo, but we think it was completely encapsulated and we got everything. So that's just totally up to you. We don't think you need it. And they decided not to do it because they were like, well, if they say it's encapsulated, I think they probably got it. It's a, solid tumor. So that should be okay. And what they went through 3 years later when it came back was like so much more intense because it had spread through their entire like abdominal cavity. And they had to do this like open cavity search to pull out every lymph node in there. And that means like moving all of your organs. And it was way more intense. And they're like, man, I should have just done a couple weeks of chemo.
Right.
But you don't know what you don't know. So.
Right.
Yeah.
But good on body.
Yeah.
To just be like, I'm risking that future. I'm going to go ahead and do this right now. Like,
yeah. And knowing the huge effect that it would have on their career, like,
right.
I feel like I'm the newest to like some of the exposure that I'm getting through the podcast with the connections that I'm making in the community. So just to hear about from PJ and from Body, the huge changes that come with that and how much of your career is centered around this persona and who you are and how you have to pivot and how much work that takes.
Right.
Seska too.
Yeah.
Touched on aspects of that. Yeah.
Right.
When all of a sudden, it didn't happen to me in sex work, but I was in a really successful professional writing career. I had companies paying me to write every day. Like, it was great. I went into an office and they're like, would you like to write? Like, yeah. And then they paid me. It was amazing. I had a creative team, and I was ready to move from in-house creative team to in-house creative team until I was a creative director. That was my clear path. And it was a no-brainer for me. And then my body said, or
or not.
You could barely scrape by for 5 or 6 years while you almost died several different ways and times. And then you can work from home for the rest of your life if you do a good enough job to get clients. It's like, oh, well, I guess we're making that work then. Like,
sometimes there's not much of a choice.
No, I get a lot of, because I work solely from home. I rarely leave my house, to be honest. It's like the toddler I'm helping to raise gets me outside more than anything, and like, and it, oh my God, my train of thought just left me so hard. I barely leave my house because of my illness, and people ask me, well, how do I get to do that? I want to work from home too. I want the benefits of being able to, I can care for my great niece. I can care for my disabled husband and myself. I can do all these, I have these privileges, Like, I don't know if I can give you a pathway to that because mine was a scrambling survival, screaming descent of income from this, and figuring out how to do that and how to budget and how to make all the. I don't know. I don't have a good answer for you. Like, my pivot was forced on me. That's like.
Well, when we had Ali Awesome on, she talked a little bit about that too. She talked about the fact that like what she ended up with after having like gone through all of her illness, she's grateful for now, but she's like, I wouldn't do it again.
Right. This is not the chosen path. This is not the vision I had for myself.
Yeah. I'm trying to, gain something from this, but like, this isn't what I chose. So yeah.
Yeah. Like,
and there's
I'm
a way,
survivor and I'm a worker and I'm going to make this shit work. And I see that in PJ. I see that in Body by Blunts. I see that in Allie and Seska. It's like,
right.
Gotta hustle, gotta figure this out.
Right.
But that doesn't mean this was like,
right. Mm-hmm.
No one sat down and was like, and then.
Yeah. I feel like through that, I'm also witnessing the way that sex work spreads out.
Mm-hmm.
The way that a sex worker needing certain support factors leads to money in other people's pockets and the pulling up of other people. And then also when those people need to pivot or are down on hard times or sick, their community comes back.
Yeah, I had that experience. So and I've said this many times, but like when PJ was sick, 3 different sex workers came and stayed at our house for a week or 2 each and basically pretended to be me, shuffled the kids around and did things like that while I was taking care of PJ. And then one of our friends like set up a GoFundMe for us. And I think raised like $8,000 or something so that I wasn't so stressed about like trying to make money. And I see that happen for a lot of people where like whoever is, down and out. Like there was a sex worker who was one of the very, very first Peep Show podcast guests when that show was really not good because we were so young. So we weren't that young. We were so new. And she recently was like pretty badly beat up, not in sex work, by a partner. And people really rallied around her and raised a lot of money for her and for like her being both out of work to recover and then the surgeries that she needed. And, nobody wants those things to happen, but it's nice that when they do, that there's people who rally around.
Yeah. And it's a testament to, the things that happen to everyone happen to sex workers.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah. It's not set apart. We're not special.
Yeah.
Go through the same life things, the same trials, the same celebrations.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. But I think going back to your point, Milk, I think it's interesting to think about how our bodies in this job, even if we're online, even if we're like fully online, or it doesn't really matter, but like so much of our bodies go into our personas. And when those bodies like change, that does require a lot of like creative energy and like, okay, so how are we still going to make this work? And one of the things that I think is great about the sex industry is that there's so many different desires. And so you can just be like, okay, so, I think Seska said this, like when she got into the industry, she was like a 28-year-old girl next door. And now she's like a 54-year-old cougar. And those are completely different markets, obviously. But, you have to like somehow figure out like, okay, so I'm going to now do this thing. And this is going to be a totally different group of people, but there are those people. You just have to be like malleable and creative enough to figure out how to pivot.
Yeah. Listening to Body Talk really pushed me and affirmed, and you've said this to me before, just lean into your own things, your own persona, and there is a clientele that will find you that wants you have to offer. Because I consider myself a performer and I could probably fill any role. Yeah. But is that going to serve me well in the long run?
Right, right. It might in the short term, because then you could kind of have a larger base. But then, like, as you move along, you're going to want to be doing things that feel more natural and comfortable to you. Otherwise, it's always a performance. And you don't want, like, that's more exhausting than just showing up and being there for people. I mean, I guess it depends on your personality. It's more exhausting for me. It would be more exhausting for me. And I want to hold space for the people who like that role, because I think there are people who also like to do that, but that's not how I work. And I think the longer that you're in it, the harder it is to do that.
Yeah. So listening to you in Body Talk, definitely. It sealed a few things in my head where I'm like thinking about things like building a Tris profile and like what I want to look like. And hearing how individual the two of you are and how in your element, like, this is who I am, this is who I'm going to be. And I'm not really gonna, even though people say the shit that they say, I love that part of the episode, listening to the two of you talk about the shit that people say.
It's
and it's
so,
like, well, just
it's
continue
so
to go
bananas. You're like, how could people say stuff like that?
With their whole chest.
Yeah.
Just open the mouth and said it with their whole chest. That just got me. It hit me in my love of words. It's like, yeah, they did.
But I think that you just build up it's not an immunity, but there is a way in which, like, you have to build that up, because you have to, I think this is why it's a little bit easier to get into it a little bit later in life, because going in and, like, knowing who you are. And this is, like, I think what you're talking about, Milk, like going in, setting up a Tris profile and thinking about, like, what parts of myself do I want to have on this, and how am I going to create my brand? That's kind of inner work, like, because it's not just about a brand. It's about, like, how do I want to show up for people in these intimate ways, and what parts do I want to lead with? And, that is a lot. That's difficult. It took me a long time when I first started. And I think this is very normal to kind of try a bunch of different things and figure out, like, what you're going to focus on. But, like, when I picked the name, I used to cam under a different name. And then when I picked Jessie Sage, it was because I was like, I spent a lot of time in philosophy, and why not, like, lean on that a little bit and do, like, the wisdom thing, and bring in my background. And if I can bring in my background, then I can connect with people who really are into what I do, instead of like, I could never pretend to be, like, a manic pixie dream girl. I'm too serious or something. I don't know. It's just, like, not something I could do. And people do really well with that, but not me. I wouldn't do well with that because it wouldn't work for me. And so, going through that process of being like, okay, I'm just going to bring forward, like, who I am and what I do and what I'm interested in. And then, like, last night I had a date with a lawyer who was like, I really wanted to get together with you because you seem very smart and you seem like a driven person. And that's what I'm attracted to in women. And I was like, yeah. So this is somebody who wanted to see me, not just, like, a body. But that could be anything. And that's what I like. That's why I think it's fun to host a show like this, is that, like, everyone that we've had has completely different branding and different personalities and different client bases.
Yeah. I mean, I'm going to use this as a very loose segue here for just to move into, but it's your uniqueness is your brand. Like, I do branding work with companies and individuals. Like, stop trying to figure out who you are. You're already you. Yeah. You're there. We just need to tease out what you think you are versus what the world sees in you. Yeah. And most importantly, with public branding, what you're willing to have shown to a large group of people, which means criticism. Right. So I may have things about my brand that are obviously me. But for my caretaking, for instance, this is the first public venue in which I've talked about caretaking. Like, I've been very protective of that. People in my professional areas, both singing and writing and branding, none of them know what my families are like. They don't know that I'm like a mom or, that's not anyone's business. Like, so you need to be protective of those parts of you but everyone is unique and interesting and cool in their own way. And this is my very Liz segue. I can't avoid we have to talk about singing for just a minute. With Body Blind Blends, because they experienced this very, very common experience for young people, especially in America, but I assume in other countries as well, because we're not the only competitive country where young people go to sing, or older, whatever, they go to sing, and it's not perfect or on pitch or whatever the heck it is, and they're immediately told they can't. And experience this long period of rejection and self-doubt because of it. And that is like picking up a guitar that's out of tune, strumming it and going, it's broken. We're just instruments. Every single person can be trained. I guarantee you, I promise you from the bottom of my heart, every person can use their body to make pleasing sounds that can be called singing, that can blend with other voices should they want to, or be alone and beautiful in its own self. Like, music is vibrating the air in time. That's it. That's all it is. It is every music you've ever heard can be reduced to that definition. And I have to take a minute to just be like, you are a human who thinks you can't sing and want to. You can, and you should.
I love that.
It's so healing, and it's so fun, and it's so community building, and it's so it just feels good. I have my hand right here, because I just always get this, really warm and bright feeling here that is often connected to spiritual feelings for people. And I don't know if it's physical or what it is, but when I sing, even when no one's around, I get real warm right here, and like, we need that, whatever that is. And like,
so I don't
so
sing,
many
and I
people
never
get told
have.
they can't, and I hate it. Okay,
I've never sang.
My rant's over.
But I have a vision in my head of like, you know how everybody's like, if I wasn't me, this is what I would want to be. Like if I wasn't me, this is what I would want to be, is a lounge singer. Like, I would love to be a lounge singer. I think that would be amazing.
It is my secret wish to like write the right song and work with you and somehow make that come true, even if it's just like in your house for PJ. But like, want that to happen. It'd be
so amazing, and to wear like a ball gown and lean against the piano, and I don't know, work the room and
I love it.
Sparkle.
It's very funny.
Make this happen if you want to. Like, I'm down.
Having this conversation right now, because I am a singer.
Are you?
Excellent.
I'm a hearing impaired singer. So some of the singing that I do is through feeling. But when I was young and I was learning to sing for, I want to say 5 or 6 years, all of my educators, which were school-based, I never went to a dedicated vocal coach, which I probably should have. The process probably would have happened faster.
They're nice.
My educators really tried for a very long time to help me find a head voice. They were like, you're not singing through to your head voice. And then in my final year of
what does that mean? What's a head voice?
So it's like a higher register.
Oh, okay.
They call it head voice because it's like a coming up.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Higher notes. Head voice is often so us speaking here, and you often speak in head voice, you speak up. So they were like, when you answer the phone and you speak up, that's your head voice. And I would try to say I am singing in a head voice. And it wasn't until my last year of high school that I was so petrified to sing by myself. I loved singing in a group, that my vocal coach ran me through took me aside by myself, ran me through all my registers and was like, you're singing in your head voice, you're a contralto.
Nice.
They just have you in the alto section, so you are singing in your head voice. You're just
but it
never
hits there.
Yeah.
Yes. And that's so cool.
I went through that year and they were like, you could pursue singing after high school if you want to. And I didn't, for financial reasons. I was like, I feel like this is really risky. And I was never sure if I would do that in the first place. But I do love to sing. Yeah. And as a contralto, I have what would be called a lounge singer's voice.
Yeah. You should
absolutely.
You should do that and let me like enjoy it in proxy. I'll come watch.
Well, I'm happy to write the songs and get them all ready to go if you want.
The idea of karaoke makes me want to die. Like when I say I'm not a performer, I like me and I am not a performer.
I threw up the first few times I did karaoke too. Same as open mic. I was terrified of it, but it's now one of my absolute favorite things to do, especially as I age and become more and more. There's just a natural progression societally in America where the older you get, the more invisible you get. Mm-hmm. So I love it. I personally am a hermit at heart who has constantly got people around me. So like, ignore me. But to go into a karaoke bar and
and just take
not
that
exist,
attention.
and then just go do like some of my favorites are the Humpty Dance or like do the Isley Brothers. It's your thing, or like just really big songs. I'll do Jumpin' Line, like just ridiculous, over the top things, and just nailing these things. And it's so much fun for me. I really enjoy that. Like, I didn't know that I would enjoy that part of performing quite so much. I
don't like loud bars. I don't like not being able to talk. I don't like anything that's sticky. I am like the biggest priss on the planet. So
no, I hear you. There are places in which you can have both things. There's rooms you can move in and out,
so
but
like,
I feel that
anyone's
it's
like,
a rare
we're going
experience.
out to karaoke. Do you want to go? And I'm like, no, no, there is no universe in which I want to do that.
You can just do it at home now. They've got it on YouTube. You have a great
It's not the same though, right?
Well, it allows you the experience of doing it. And then when you enjoy it and feel comfortable with it,
then
the
you
idea
can
of doing
move
it out sounds a lot more interesting. Yeah.
I'm just not a fun person. Like I don't go do fun things.
That is the funniest statement from you. I'm not a fun person. I'm like, I disagree entirely. Wait.
I don't like the things that people think are fun. I don't know.
Some of the things that some people think are fun.
Yeah.
I hate zip lining. A lot of people think that's amazing.
I've never done it.
I would listen to you do a reading in a sequined outfit like a lounge singer in a second, because you speak and you write like a lounge.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
we can make this happen in a way that could work for you, Jessie. I know we can.
I love writing and I like talking. And I think what you said about singing, I think the same thing is true about talking. Like, I know that there's a way in which I like calibrate. Well, I learned how to do this as a phone sex operator. So like a way to like get somebody into a particular headspace with a cadence. And because I would notice that that a lot of people would call and they would want to talk and they would want to chit chat for a long time first, but then they would be afraid to like say, okay, so now how do we make this sexy? And when I could kind of hear them hesitating, I would start talking slower and drawing my words out so that suddenly like it was an invitation. And the funniest thing to me about that is that everybody picks that, like, not everybody, I should say, most people then pick up like, okay, we're moving into like, without having to say like, okay, let's do like a sexy time. Like, so there's like a smooth transition when you do that, except my very autistic clients were always so cute because they didn't do that. They instead were just like, okay, so can we do the sex thing now? Okay, so they would be like, they would say, yeah, so I went to the grocery store and I did X, Y, and Z. And now I'm kissing down your body and I'm playing with your nipples.
Yeah.
And are you wet now?
Totally, babe.
But there was something so endearing about that too, where I was like, okay, so this is like, you don't have to play this game. They're just going to be like, okay, is it time now? Okay, let's do this thing.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah.
Very straightforward.
Right.
Like,
right.
Okay, great. Cool.
Yeah. We spent 20 minutes on this chit chat and now it's time to move into the other part. So I have my cock in my hand and I went to the store yesterday and I'm like, okay. All right.
Did you get eggs? I'm wet now.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. But I do like that. I like audio for that reason. But I'm also somebody who's spent a lot of time listening to radio too. I like voice stuff. Anyways, we've gotten far afield. Do you
No, we're still on singing. This is great.
You're right. You're right.
Which
I don't
was
sing.
Like one of the overarching,
but I can make people turned on with my voice. So that's a talent.
Yeah.
It's
Absolutely.
Also, you talking about your autistic clients and the way they are leans into that theme of being your clients are going to be themselves. You should be yourself and lean into it, and pivots will happen and changes will happen. You'll have boobs. You won't have boobs. You'll have nipples. You won't have nipples.
Right.
Just keep going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You just keep going. You pivot.
Yeah. And I think that one of the things, and I mean, actually going back to the crazy things that like clients say to people of color or to fat people or to anyone who's doing the work. I think that sex work is an interesting space where people who are very curious about things, but can pursue them outside of social pressure for, to like a certain thing or to, and so I feel like people come into sex work much more exploratory. Like, I want to be with people of all different kinds of bodies, all different kinds of gender presentations, all different, just a huge amount of diversity because we crave diversity. And a lot of people don't feel like they're allowed to diversity of bodies and people, but also of like types of sex that they're having or what they're allowed to like and not like. And I feel like one of the fun things about sex work is that it does open all of that space up to be like, let's try all of these things. So you need to have people who are everything, who do all kinds of people, not just who we think of when we think of like sex workers. Not me, not as the three of us, but the general population.
Yeah. Absolutely.
That's probably a good place to end on that one, unless you guys have other reflections.
Hey, I'm sure this group could reflect endlessly, but we should probably wrap this one up.
Okay. Emily, do your producer thing.
Thank you so much for joining us in this after party. This is the When We're Not Hustling after party. Please like us, follow us wherever you're getting your podcasts. If you're listening to us, please leave us some comments or likes and check us out on Patreon. That is going to be our season 2 focus. So I'm going to give you a preview now. Check us out on Patreon.
Also patreon.com/sapiotextual, which is my Twitter handle. So I'm just trying to be somewhat consistent. And thank you for joining us.